Ladies and gentlemen, time for the APB recap. This is where I recap most of the stuff I talk about in the past stream on my stream channel. You can check them out, link down below. You can join in the whole fun, and they'll always be at Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time or 6 p.m. if it's daylight saving time. Just calculate it yourself. My brother is also playing some games. You can check it out on the same channel as well. Once again, this video is sponsored by you guys. This recap is sponsored by you guys who are really making this recap even more fun to make. YouTube pretty much demonetized this channel, and you guys are the awesome people that keep this channel afloat while making the content to not adhere to any sorts of monetization rules. So I want to thank you so much for all of these absolutely wonderful people. You guys are fantastic. If you want to be part of the list of really awesome people, then you can check out the links down below. Good lord. Japan really cannot take a break last week. For one, there was the shooting of the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, which led to people online making all sorts of wild takes, such as Hideo Kojima being the perpetrator, even though the actual perpetrator has been arrested. For two, there was the passing of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga creator Kazuki Takahashi, a horrible tragedy of one of the most influential mangakas of our time. And finally, there's this really awful and really stupid news that will affect anyone in Japan. Japan has amended cyberbullying laws, making it so that online insults are punishable by 1 year in prison. You heard that right. You insult online people in Japan, you might potentially get 1 year in prison. This was stemmed from the suicide of a Japanese star, Hana Kimura, who was bullied online, and apparently one of the bullies only got charged a measly 9,000 yen, which is around 81 bucks. Right now, the charges are jacked up. Now the charges can go up to 300,000 yen, which is around $2,200. The law is also not very specific in which can be considered an insult, which means that it's opening itself to a lot of abuse, especially from people with lots of power and influence who can crush down the little people that try to demean them online. I know this because this has happened many times. Here in Indonesia, we have this incredibly flexible law that is always constantly abused, where normal people like us can be reported for insulting or even harshly critiquing people who have power. This is an affront towards freedom of expression and a horrible day for online discourse. People make insults all the time. I wouldn't want them to get jailed, unless they touch kids inappropriately, in which case jail is way too good for them. But on the bright side of Japan's terrible events, Ken Akamatsu, the creator of Love Hina, who ran for office, won the election for the Japanese government spot. He's been advocating for the freedom of expression in manga, so in that regard, there's at least hope in that manga content in Japan can flourish without any interference of all sorts of moral guardians. We can only hope, though. We can only hope. This one could be real, could be fake. I'll leave that to your own judgments, but it's still really funny to read. Dear neighbor, I was recently informed that you're not Mexican, but Indian. Now, forgive me for assuming, but throughout this conversation, I was assuming that they're talking about Indians, as in they came from India, but they could also be talking about Native Americans. Indians is just an old way to refer to them, apparently. I am not racist and wish for all kinds to love and be loved. Well, just because you say that you're not racist doesn't mean that you are not racist. And the best way to prove that you are actually racist is by keep on talking. But I would like to inform you that we citizens of pay taxes to live on this land, and you do not. Oh boy, you know it's serious when you say all of that with bold letters and underline. We couldn't have seen what you meant if you didn't. Okay, OP, so you pay taxes and the Indian neighbors don't because they're Indians? You can still be an American citizen even if you're not, well, American. And this is assuming that the person is from India. If the person is Native American, that's even worse for you. There are Indian reservations held for your people where you are welcome and appreciated. Ah, racial segregation, something that both sides of the extreme really want for different reasons.
They're racist!
This is not your place. You are not welcome in this neighborhood. But hold on a second, I thought you wished all kinds to love and be loved. I don't know about you, but I'm not feeling the love here, man. I kindly suggest, with the best of intentions, that you consider moving back to a place where you really belong. Well, if you're willing to make some sort of financial contribution to our relocation, then maybe it's something that is worth considering. In other words, pay us to move. Also, I overheard a conversation with my son and his friends that he thinks your daughter is cute. Oh, God forbid that people call Indian women cute. I mean, Fate Go as Lakshmi Bai. She's cute. I highly suggest that you tell your daughter not to dress inappropriately, as it is confusing my son and possibly his friends. Define inappropriately. I mean, you put it in really bold and underlined letters. You gotta have to find ways to define that for people who didn't see the outfits, right? I do not think it is cute at all. It is sin for your daughter to dress this way. Dress what way? You need to at least describe how she dressed before we make any judgments. And then this person proceed to the next paragraph where they said that interracial marriage is a sin. So interracial marriage is a sin, but racism isn't. So in other words, God is racist?
Okuyasu, I heard it as clear as day. This sick fuck said the N-word. I just remembered I have a meeting at 8:30. Racist!
In a more lighthearted news, Crypto Bros can't stop taking the L's. They really can't. Every single time, there'll be new things that just make people go, what the hell were these people thinking? This person over here, for example, thinks that it'd be a good idea to make a Bored Ape cosplay. Look at the high quality cosplay, guys. It is not insensitive at all. And yes, the person eventually apologizes for it because it is such... Just look at it. Like, why would you do this stuff? But hey, at least you're not making game consoles. Polium 1, a multi-chain console for Web3 gaming. In other words, decentralized networks, blockchain technologies, cryptocurrency, NFTs, all of that crap. Where do I sign up? This is straight up one of the funniest suplas in the past week because there are tons and tons of things that makes this console screams failure. The controller has a wallet button. A wallet button. A wallet button. I am genuinely imagining a horrific future where the next generation of controllers have a freaking chip card reader. A lot of cards these days use NFC, and some controllers, like the Joy-Cons, already feature NFC readers. Put the two and two together, and you have summoned the modern-day equivalent of a freaking arcade machine. Except it's in your home, and they're siphoning all your money. The controller also has a fingerprint scanner for authentication. Excellent. More shady companies to submit your biometrics for. And apparently this console will have 4K, 120 FPS, and even ray tracing. All in that really tiny box the size of a DualSense or a PS4 controller. I can totally believe that they're playing games at 4K 120 FPS with ray tracing, but that is under the assumption that they are playing Space Invaders. The entire console was a reskinned CGI image of a failed South Korean console. Even if all of their claims are correct, what kind of games would you be playing in this console? What kind of games that really utilize those impressive Web3 features that it requires an entire console for it? The console will allow you to play Web3 games more efficiently. Hold on a second. You haven't even established how the previous methods were inefficient. Plug in and play Web3 games using one wallet. So we're playing these games with wallets now instead of controllers. What games do we get to play? Games on Solana, Ethereum, Immutable X, BNB, Harmony, Wax, Polygon, and EOS. What the hell are those?
I understand nothing of what you just said.
I can't understand a single word you're saying.
Are those more ways for the crypto bros to scam people? More pay-to-win garbage? Because we clearly haven't had enough pay-to-win garbage in the last couple of years. It's horrific to think about how the crypto bros have introduced us a terrible future where gaming is less about having fun and more about monetizing the crap of its consumer. Oh wait, we already are living in that future. Which is why I want the whole game industry to just reboot itself. Seriously, just reboot yourself, guys. But thank you, Crypto Bros, for introducing an even worse possible futures and more horrific monetization ideas. As a school teacher, I deal with lots and lots of problematic students. Students get rebellious all the time, but we have yet to see the most rebellious and the most dangerous students that has ever lived throughout the academic history. Until now, mom furious after daughter gets school detention because iPad was only 93% charged. That's right, guys. she gets detention because her iPad is not at 100%. Clearly the most rebellious and the most dangerous type of student that has ever lived. Apparently, the school has set expectations that iPad be no lower than 97%. No, I have never heard of this stupidity either. And yes, I agree with one of the respondents. iPad should never even be used in a classroom setting in the first place. Windows or Mac should be the bare minimum. Linux even better, if you're willing to learn. I can teach some Linux, especially when the other two operating systems are being absolute garbage. And yes, there's a reason why Chromebooks are the freaking standard for a lot of schools these days. Oh, and another thing, did you know that charging lithium-ion batteries to 100% is not good? The reason is because lithium-ion batteries work in charge cycles, and if you charge them to near 100%, you are most likely to stress them out. If you want to make your phones to be more future-proof and your batteries to be more healthy, don't charge overnight and do partial charges. I, for example, charge to only around 60 to 80% at most, and I'll charge them the moment it hits around 20 to 30%. Also, get yourselves a power bank. They can really help. 20,000 milliamp hour is the maximum that you can carry in airports, and it also helps even more when they have PD 3.0 or 65-watt fast charging. This is another installment of Appa's Tech Tips. Yar har fiddly dee, corporations make the pirates roam free. No, seriously, without failure, every single time, a lot of these big corporations are doing all sorts of bullshit that makes me want to endorse piracy even more. PlayStation Store taking away all of Studio Canal content. They remove content from the store due to licensing issues. Imagine buying all sorts of movies and all of that, and then because of some legal bullshit, the company just removes the movies from the store. All of that money that you spent in those movies, poof. Gone, never to be seen again, and you wonder why I sail the 7 seas. But hey, PlayStation isn't the only one that's giving more reasons to sail the 7 seas. Ubisoft, in their infinite wisdom, also decides to cancel all sorts of services for all of their older games. Anno 2070, some of the older Assassin's Creed games, Driver San Francisco, which is rich because that game cannot be bought anywhere on the PC. Far Cry 3, Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Game, Sans, Silent Hunter 5, Space Junkies, and Splinter Cell Blacklist. Special mention goes to Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, where people will never be able to buy the game on Steam again. And for those who did buy the game on Steam, you can only play them until September 1st, 2022. And that's after the game got on sale right on the last Steam summer sale. That's right, the game got on sale, people bought them, only for Ubisoft to be like, nope, you can't play the game anymore. In other words, people bought a digital paperweight. In other words, they straight up stole from people. And you wonder why I sail the 7 seas. And you wonder why I recommend people to do so. The thing is, before you go, this is why physical is better. Well, it is better, but it's not perfect. Physical can and will deteriorate. The best format of your favorite entertainments is pirated digital copy. Pirated digital copy, ones that you can actually save in your drives. Yes, your external drive can be broken as well, but it's much easier to copy stuff from one external drive to another external drive, compared to, say, copying from one Blu-ray disc to another Blu-ray disc. A Blu-ray copy is easy to get nowadays, but what about older games? What about physical copies of games that are no longer on sale? NES cartridges, for example, they have existed for decades. They have deteriorated to the point where they are straight up unplayable. Heck, a lot of original NES consoles have deteriorated to the point where they are unplayable. This is why you need to have the ROMs of those games in your drive somewhere. The cartridge is great to have, but they're not always functional. A ROM file, on the other hand, you can put up any emulator on the PC or mobile phones or any game console that you jailbroke that can play emulators and homebrew emulators. You can play these offline. You can enjoy these as much as you like. No DRMs, no connecting to the internet, no game companies that pull the games off of the stores without your knowledge, none of that. Just pick them up, play them, and enjoy them. You can enjoy any of these older games in the modern devices through emulators. You don't need to have the original consoles nowadays, other than for collectible purposes, because that's what they are for nowadays. And that's fine, but they're not always the most accessible way to play them, especially when they're vintage and expensive. The more and more these corporations do all of this garbage, the more and more I encourage people to start selling the 7Cs. They straight up stole money from you. They sold you digital paperweight. And you're telling me that piracy is bad? I already have a video where you can start selling the Cs. And if you want more details, I have my Twitter DMs and my email open if you need help. I got a bunch of happy customers. So don't be afraid to hit me up if you need any help, because your money could have been saved for anything else in life that is much better and more valuable. And don't let these big corporations steal from you. Last week, we talked about EA's anti-single player tweet and how badly it's gone to them. Well, it turns out there's more to the story than just that. The moment the tweet got sent to social media, there's a lot of internal battle within the company itself. Let's get into it, shall we? The tweet in question, where EA basically mocked people for only single-player games, got into the team's freaking Slack page. They have to discuss all sorts of things to make sure that they got the situation under control. Spoiler alert, they don't. Even the developers that make multiplayer games don't like it. Some of the discussions at Slack involves turning the whole tweet into a marketing for single-player games, which, coming from EA, is about as genuine as gacha games presenting itself as not gambling. Some EA employees pointed out that the roasting EA energy would feed into the big bad EA narrative. That's not a narrative. That's a fact. EA is a big, bad company. Anyone who says otherwise is a corporate shill. Multiple social media managers opted out straight away. Jeebus creepers, even they don't want to deal with this crap. And yes, it seems that this entire thing is not the social media manager's fault. It's the company's fault. It's the goddamn bureaucracy involved in all of this, when it could have been handled so much better. Though I do have to admit that the last tweet where they took the L is still a much better conclusion than whatever they were proposing. It still sucks, but that's because EA just sucks in general. We shouldn't have cared about EA's single-player tweet as much as we did. No, really, you're right. We shouldn't. It's a really dumb tweet and they got properly roasted for it. But you have an alternative interpretation. A bad interpretation, but a different one. The reason your partner playing single-player games makes them less than a 10 is because they can't play with you. Ah, so your partner just wants attention. They don't want your heart. Maybe they should slither away and find someone new. The article basically says that people take the tweet way too seriously and that there are bigger issues within gaming that people really should care about, such as gamers being terrible people. Gamers are terrible people, and we should stop being okay with it. I'm never okay with gamers being terrible people. I complained last week about some of the idiots that either tried to send dick pics to demand a release date for God of War Ragnarok, or just begging for the release date in general, and friend them like they're the freaking mafia. By the way, the release date is at November, guys, just in case you really want to know. The general complaint from this article is about the bigotry. The first one is the sexism. The writer apparently wrote an article about how a female Valorant streamer was told to go back to Halo? Wait, what? How is that bad? I'd rather people go back to Halo than Valorant if you ask me. And if she's being told to go back to play Halo, that would imply that she has played Halo, which means that she has more gaming cred than a lot of gamers these days. It's basically impossible for women to play a game without being told it's not for them. Okay, there are very few instances where it's reasonable to tell women that certain games are not for them. The biggest one is where those women don't enjoy the games that they're playing. If you don't enjoy the game, if you complain about it too much, then it's reasonable to say that you should play something else. People don't like women who play games just because it's popular and not because they genuinely love them. It puts their gamer cred in question. There's nothing wrong with women playing games that are typically catered to a more casual audience, like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. My sister and my girlfriend played Stardew Valley. I play Stardew Valley. The game is fun, and fun is all that matters. If you're not having fun with the game, if you're just playing the game just because it's popular, then you're not having fun. You're not really a gamer. You're just a trend chaser. And then there's the racism problem. The writers still can't get over PewDiePie saying the N-word in 2017. Then there's FaZe Clan members getting caught saying the N-word. And then we got into last week's God of War hoopla, which I also called out because it's bullshit. A lot of it is bullshit. The series' fanboys and the Sony's fanboys are baby steps into becoming the Persona fandom, or worse, the Danganronpa fandom, or worse, the Genshin fandom. But one thing that this writer brought up, and I really want to emphasize this a lot, is in regards to how freaking pointless representation is. The writer said, gaming's representation is getting better, but the stage is set for the audience to get even worse. Gee, it's almost as if representation changes jack freaking squat. It's almost as if it's done just to serve the most entitled, narcissistic individuals in the planet and not to serve actual minorities. But you know what is actually terrible? Censorship. Capcom Fighting Collection was released and there were 2 pieces of censorship found, apparently. There's the removal of the Rising Sun flag in Street Fighter, which is not new, but what is new is the removal of a piece of art that was present in Vampire Savior 2, which was the updated version of the latest installment of Darkstalkers in 1997. There are loads of Darkstalkers fans wanting a return to the series after decades of re-releases and the series' hiatus. The most that Darkstalkers series has in terms of popularity is being represented in the Capcom Versus series, which is still relatively popular even to this day, especially among the fighting game community. Also, the porn. The porn is very popular. It's mostly on Morrigan, Lilith, and Felicia. They're still made even to this day. But yeah, Capcom, in my opinion, is on the mixed bag territory. At one side, they make really excellent games that I genuinely love. But on the other hand, they do stuff like this. They censor stuff. They talked about sexism in one of the presentation files that got leaked a while back. I forgot when, but point is, they are a big corporation. Big corporations that make major AAA titles that are released worldwide will adhere to the global standards. They don't really have to, but they think they should, so they will do them. My expectations to big game corporations in regards to fan service content are very low, so I don't expect them to have their products to be uncensored or have fan service. But thankfully, we have the internet. If I want proper fan service content nowadays, I don't go to the actual games. I go to the fans. The fans actually make better fan service content than the developers. They make better fan arts, better animations, better mods, better 18+ content, and most, if not all of them, have little to no restrictions whatsoever. They can make anything they like. The internet is both a blessing and a curse. It's a curse because communication is a lot easier these days. Complaining is a lot easier these days. And most of the loudest complaints are about female sexualization and how it's really bad, even though studies have shown that it has no correlation with actual sexism. On the other hand, it's a blessing because the internet exposes us to a lot of alternative means of fan service. In a lot of ways, the fan service provided by the fans are even better than the fan service that are provided by the actual game developers or the game companies. So even if gaming industry or the entertainment industry in general is sanitized to absurdity because of corporate and pandering bullshit, human creativity and horniness cannot be stopped and will not stop. And last but not least, this is another recap exclusive hoopla. I'll discuss this on the next stream, of course, but damn. Kansas City Art Institute expels student for retweeting sexual art, specifically hentai, which can be an issue if the students retweet them and show them around the campus when people don't want to look at them. But no, this is the students' own private account that they have in their own private time where they tagged literally nobody. It's a retweet on their own private account. All of this was caused by another student, the obnoxious moral guardian social media hall monitor, or at least allegedly, who saw the retweet and reported it to the administrators. The reason why the student in question got expelled is because the retweets that they did were considered sexual harassment. The problem is they haven't defined what sexual harassment is, and what the student did, retweeting hentai in their own private account, doesn't meet any legal definition of sexual harassment. The university in question is a private one, so they're not bound by the First Amendment, but they did say that they're morally and contractually required to uphold freedom of expression, which they are explicitly stated to commit themselves to. Not only that, but they're also committed to support the rights of the campus's community to engage in free speech and open assembly and values intellectual and artistic curiosity together with critical and creative inquiry. All of that while expelling a student without any meaningful chance of contesting the allegations. So much for that. It's insane how a lot of institutions these days think that people's private lives are something that they should care about. No one should care about what people do in their bedrooms. Doesn't matter if they're doing it single player or multiplayer. It's none of their goddamn business. But a lot of people really wants to make it as if it is. It's not. And these people should stop making it so. And that's all for today's recap. Once again, huge thanks for everyone who supported this recap. You guys are absolutely fantastic. If you want to be part of the supporters of this recap, then please go ahead and check out the links down below and how you can support this stream and this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.